in the media conference with Lal Goyal, which is brought to you by V4 News, Global TV, V4 Stream, Malnadu TV India, News Gaon Se, Samvad Sarokar News, Bharat Post News, Organ Donation India Foundation and Gyan. Our endeavor is to enlighten you with the current topic. And our today's topic is not only current, very relevant and very hot. And the topic is petrol prices. Now I would like to invite our guest, the next guest, and she is Miss Vinita Hariharan. Miss Vinita Hariharan is the Chief of Program, Ministry of MSME, Government of India. Miss Vinita has had an illustrious academic journey and an exemplary professional and public life. An alumnus of prestigious School of Planning and Architecture, New Delhi, she worked for a decade in leading private and public sectors of the country. At this juncture, driven by the aim of donning the hat of a decision maker from an implementer, she pursued her mid-career master's in public administration from the Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy, National University of Singapore, on a scholarship from the Singapore government. This proved to be a game changer as she gained wide international perspective in the policy making. Post this, she has been with various multilateral and bilateral agencies with the Government of India, where she designed national policies and led the implementation of several flagship programs of Government of India in the domains of rural, urban and livelihoods. Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee Urban Mission, formulation of micro enterprises being some of the key flagship programs designed by her. She is currently with the Ministry of MSME as Chief of Programs handling externally aided missions. Ms. Vinita is a public speaker and a thought leader in diverse issues of nation building. She is on the board of studies of leading global institutes and a mentor to social foundations that work towards empowering women and the girl child. Ms. Vinita was recently given the Women of Excellence Award from the Indian Achievers Forum for her outstanding contributions to the field despite all hurdles. Welcome, Ms. Vinita Hariharan on our show. Ms. Vinita Hariharan, you have heard what Dr. C.V. Anand Bose as well as what Mr. P.K.D. Nambiar has mentioned. Now, we would like to know from you, your views on the petrol price. Ms. Vinita Hariharan, please.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Goyal. And I'm indeed honored to share this panel with Dr. C.V. Anand Bose and my other esteemed panelists, Mr. Nambiar and Nusrat. So indeed, the topic is extremely relevant and the burning topic of the day, as Sir just mentioned, Mr. Anand Bose. And the points mentioned by my earlier panelists have been so detailed, and I can reinforce, substantiate, and I would also supplement. So beginning with, I would like to break up this topic into several parts. One is the supply side at the international level, which is the international crude oil prices, which all of us have said in just now, that the crude oil prices have reached a record high of $70 a barrel, although we have seen days where it was $100 a barrel as well at one point in time. But the story begins from there. So there is definitely a cartelization by the OPEC countries, wherein they always try to control the prices at a certain level. Even if the demand goes down, they would cut the production costs, and they would cut the production and increase the prices of the basic crude oil. So that is one aspect. Apart from that, so that's also because of the pandemic-infused supply constraints that the oil companies also faced in the recent past, in the past 2 years. So there's supply side constraints, and there's a huge pent-up demand that has been released during the windows between lockdowns that we have across the globe, wherein there's a lot of demand for vaccine production, and there's a lot of supply chain requirement across the globe, and that's when the demand again increases. So this keeps happening, this fluctuation in prices by the OPEC countries. So that's one aspect. So to tackle that, to give a solution with the problem, you just juxtapose the problem and the solution simultaneously. In India, we have to really look at increasing our crude oil production. So like we have about 600 million tons of capacity for crude oil production, but we're only doing 30 million tons, whereas our consumer requirement is about 200 million tons. So therefore, we need to really ramp up our crude oil production. which the government of the day has been doing, has been going in the right direction by inviting robust public sector companies to participate in crude oil production. And it's not just the public sector entities that should be given the responsibility of the sole responsibility of crude oil exploration and production. So that has to be ramped up. And we can also think of perhaps taking an equity from international power production companies, wherein they also produce oil from our country. So that is one solution that's possible for crude oil, increasing the crude oil production. Apart from that, another way out is, of course, going in for renewable energy, which I think no government in the past has been so gung-ho and so proactive and so aggressive on increasing our energy basket towards renewable energy. And today we are one of the leading nations wherein our basket of our renewable energy component in the basket of energy sources is one of the highest, is almost 40%. And our renewable energy targets are also being increased in the Paris Agreement as well. We are going beyond the Paris Agreement commitments, and we're also looking at about 275 gigawatt or so, and we have about 136 gigawatt today. So the government of the day is going in the right direction in terms of emphasizing on the use of renewable energy. So that has to now come into the automobile sector, which the Honorable Minister Nitin Gadkari ji has been also being very aggressive about electric vehicles. We know never before in the past have we had such an emphasis on production of electric vehicles. So I think we need to ramp up that. We need to pace it up and bring in electric vehicles as quickly as possible. Now, looking at the entire structure, which Mr. Lal, you have also described the breakup of prices, and Anand Bose ji and our earlier speaker Nambiar ji has also mentioned about the breakup and the tax and the entire component of tax, which is a huge component definitely in the entire fuel price. So 32.39 per liter for the basic crude oil internationally, and coming down to almost 100 rupees per liter in states like Maharashtra. So that's the huge component which definitely we need to take cognizance of. So as Anand Bose ji just mentioned that, the ad valorem tax, which is the states impose over and above the central excise duty, that is what actually, multiplies the price of petrol, so to speak, because the ad valorem is calculated on the price after including the excise duty. So excise duty remains the same across the country, but the ad valorem varies. In Maharashtra imposes about almost 40% in Mumbai and Thane, and varies between districts in Maharashtra itself. So, so that really inflates the petrol price. Whereas in other states, we also have an Andaman and Nicobar giving it such a low price. So people really wonder, is it adulterated petrol that's being given? No, it's not that. It's about the ad valorem tax that is being bridged into this whole costing. So, so I think that the solution to that is, of course, as we all recognize, it is getting into the GST regime, and it's constitutionally, permissible to get into GST. Petrol has to get into the GST regime, but it's just that because we are a cooperative federal structure and the government respects the sentiments of the states, that we are getting into dialogues with various stakeholders and trying to reach a consensus on bringing it into the GST regime. So that would be the immediate short-term answer to resolve the entire tax component structure, and to look at union excise duties. Of course, the excise duty is an important component of the revenue of the government of India, but not as much as the GST has contributed. So therefore, for the government, it's always better for the taxes to come under the GST regime, for the government of India as well as for the end consumer, because he gets a benefit of almost a reduction of 45 rupees per liter if you come under the GST regime. So that is the immediate short-term answer. And I would also like to validate or agree with Anand Bose sir when he mentioned that you have a differentiated pricing, whereas while I would like to say that maybe we could think of providing a petrol subsidy like we did for the LPG gas cylinders, which was a huge success, the Ujjwala program. So perhaps the government of the day, if the GST continues to be a stalemate or a logjam, then we could perhaps consider giving petrol subsidies to a certain segment of the population. Like we all know, India lives in many centuries and many levels of poverty at the same time. We have a high Gini coefficient of 0.35, abject levels of poverty, but we also have super affluent rich people who are one of the richest in the globe. So therefore, why extend subsidies to all? Why extend the benefit of a lower tax to rich people? I completely agree with that philosophy. We are not yet a country where we can go beyond subsidies completely. Yes, I agree with Nambiarji when he said subsidy is a dead rent. It is a dead rent, but we need to have uniform levels of development to actually move beyond subsidies. So therefore, that's one. Those are the two short-run options that we have to address this immediate burning crisis that the country is facing. And states also have to increase their revenue base, not just look at easy money through taxing petrol and liquor. They also need to look at expanding their basket of revenue sources. There are many sources of revenue, and there's also a huge devolution of funds that the government of India is giving through various public sector programs, centrally sponsored and central sector programs. So the states need to utilize these public sector programs effectively in order to give benefit to their the people living in their to the end beneficiary. So the government, so the excise duty which the central government imposes, it's going into the revenue of the government, but almost more than 90% of the revenue of the government, the capital and the revenue expenditures, going towards public sector programs, centrally sponsored and central sector programs, which ultimately have to benefit the states, because there's nothing that the central government keeps for themselves, except of course establishment expenditure, which even states have that establishment expenditure. So therefore, they're tweaking the ad valorem tax, which is going to be contentious, but definitely getting into GST regime is the answer, plus subsidies and differentiated pricing. So that's the aspect of the taxing. The third aspect is about the mode of the kind of consumption of fuel that we have, the demand side. So in the demand side, we could have tweaking of public policies, like incentivize people to use public transport, like the metros and the railways. So you give incentives, perhaps also look at, giving them salary incentives or a commission, extra pay hike. If you use a metro in a certain number of days a month, you would be given a bonus. So that's how you incentivize people to use public transport. And in public transport in our country, the biggest hurdle is the last mile connectivity. From the metro station, how does one commute to your office or to your workplace? So perhaps there we could look at giving eco-friendly vehicles, which already there are a lot of bicycle stands, yes, but also, e-rickshaws and battery operated vehicles that take you from the last mile to take you from the metro station to your office space. So that's the second aspect. And the third aspect would be to actually provide incentives for work to home, not the work from home, but work to home. That is, promote this concept of having self-sustainable communities wherein your office is not too far away from your residence, and so that work to home concept, walk to work concept is should be encouraged. And also transit-oriented development is something that can be looked at, which countries like Singapore have implemented it very successfully, wherein you have high dense development along the metro stations, contiguous with the metro stations. So you really can walk from the metro station to your residence or to your office. So that's the other aspect. And of course, improve bicycle tracks and encourage people to use bicycles and eco-friendly modes of transport. And another aspect that can be considered is also for government to provide subsidies for auto rickshaw drivers to become e-auto rickshaws, or perhaps give them battery operated auto rickshaws. So that's another aspect that can go a long way. These are small public policy things which can be done easily, but it will go a long way in providing a positive impact in this whole scenario. So I think that's about it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. Vinita Hariharan, for giving your views.